Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You know how everyone has that one uncle who is constantly talking about back in my day, men used to be proper men, and how everyone now is just so weak and so emotional, needing therapy, blah 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 blah. But then you later find out from your grandma that he was basically unemployed and was just harassing women in the neighborhood. This is what Daniel Cormier is slowly becoming. As the years pass by, I am slowly finding myself hating DC more and more. So imagine how I felt when I woke up to the headline from MMA Junkie saying Daniel Cormier believes he would have feasted on the current UFC light heavyweights because there are no wrestlers in the division. I think it's time to call out this bullshit narrative that being a better wrestler doesn't automatically make you a better fighter. The article goes on into how Cormier sees a vast difference between the top contenders during his time and the ones right now. Um, but in reality, I think the difference is mostly just stylistic. The Jones era was wrestling heavy, but today is just more dominated by strikers. But does this mean the quality of fighters have regressed significantly? Here is my hot take, my first hot take. I don't think the quality of fighters has dropped that much. People really are over exaggerating how much it has gone down. Everyone, including DC, acts like unranked light heavyweights from 2018 or 2015 can just simply be a champion today because they have a bullshit NCAA wrestling accomplishment or an accolade or something. So why is this narrative so common among the current MMA fan base? I think the narrative is mostly carried on the back of Jon Jones. We can all agree that Jon Jones would be a champion in any era, but that just speaks to what an anomaly Jones is. But if we keep Jon Jones aside, um, let's take a look at what the top 15 looked like in 2018 when DC was champ. So we have Daniel Cormier, Alexander Gustaffson, Olkan Ostimia, Glover, Jimmy Manova. Um, in my opinion, only DC, Alexander Gustaffson, um, Glover Teixeira to some extent, and then Anthony Johnson. These are the only guys who were actually elite. So what happens after that? Who are we gonna say is actually elite? Speed, Jimmy Manova is elite now. Corey Anderson is a decent fighter. I don't really have nothing that much against them. No one else is. While this is probably slightly overall better, I don't think it's this night and day difference everyone claim. I think if Prime Gustafsson and Reyes were fighting today, DC would be shitting on how they are just pure strikers. So I'm really glad that they had their chance and did back in the days, and they also put on amazing performance. So now let's move on to DC's resume. Um, Again, I fully agree. Daniel Cormier is elite. There is no doubt there. But is his record actually that much superior to someone like Alex Pereira? Now, the second hot take of mine is that his resume is arguably not better than Alex, if not that, by not that much. Um, if you just look at it on the surface, then yeah, DC's resume is better. But if you actually know these fights and the context behind these fights and how these fights played out, you know it's not as great as it looks on paper. In my opinion, DC's best win at 205, or even the heavyweight, I think this best win was Alexander Gustaffson, um, who ironically is a striker. Let me break down why. So here is a list of every fights he had post the first Jon Jones fight. I think before this there was Frank Mir and Danny Henderson, but I think my point will still stand. He has 2 wins over Anthony Rumble Johnson. Rumble was Rumble was good, but let's be honest, he was essentially the light heavyweight version of Michael Chandler with worse cardio and more power. He had terrifying, he had nukes for hands, he had decent wrestling, but he's not really technical on the feet and this. He had piss poor cardio. So if you can survive the first 5 minutes or maybe the first 7, 8 minutes, beating him isn't that big of an accomplishment. It's like beating Terence McKinney, in my opinion. Um, After that, he has a win over Anderson Silva. On paper, sounds great, but everyone knows this is post leg break, short notice, middleweight Anderson Silva, who, let's not forget, almost finished DC with a liver kick. So again, not as big of a win as it seems. And then there is Olkan Ostemia. Do you know who else beat Olkan? Jiri Prochazka Magomed Ankalaev. And not to forget, Jiri almost killed him. After that, who else we got? I don't think I need to explain Derek Lewis. Now coming to Stipe Miocic. This would be his greatest achievement on paper, but it's not that amazing when you consider Stipe was coming out of the Ngannou first fight, and to make things even worse, DC eye pokes him and then knocks him out while he is blind. So when they ran it back, Stipe destroyed him in both fights. And none of DC's antics, including the eye pokes, really worked. Now comparing this to Alex Pereira's run, he has beaten Magomed Ankalaev in his prime, beaten Jiri Prochazka in his prime, Israel Adesanya in his prime, and a slightly post-prime Jan Blachowicz. I think the idea that you have to be an amazing wrestler to be a worthy fighter is a narrative that has been broken um, in the past few years, and especially in the past year with Merab, Jan, Topuria, Jack de la Madalena versus Belal. But this bias will never leave Cormier's head. How many times have we heard him shit on Pereira's opponent for not wrestling? My favorite is when he went, why is Khalil Roundtree, of all people, is not shooting on Alex Pereira? How dumb do you have to be to say this? Khalil isn't going to change his entire style just to test Alex Pereira's takedown defense. That's not his thing. He doesn't really have the cardio for it. He doesn't really have the skills for it. So whenever DC on the commentary says, none of the opponents of Alex Pereira is really taking him down or is trying to shoot a takedown or blah 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 because Khalil Roundtree and Jamal Hill and Sean Strickland didn't do it. Here is a list of everyone who tried to shoot a takedown on Alex Pereira. It's complete bullshit. This DC never watches anyone's fight. He does not really do any homework for it. He he just sees Alex Pereira as a striker, and then because of the label that he's a striker, and everyone else has somewhat of a striking background, no one is trying to take Alex Pereira down. Even when Alex Pereira shoots a takedown of his own against Adesanya, DC calls it weird. Oh, it's just a really weird takedown. He's just hanging on him so much that he's trying to take him down. Such a bullshit commentary. And it's not even that bad of a shot. This was an Alex Pereira that was 2 years maybe into his MMA career, but TC's brain just can't handle someone be successful while not being a good wrestler. Now, for my most insane hot take. Hot take number 3. I believe Alex Pereira, Jiri Prochazka, and Magomed Ankalaev, all three of them would beat Daniel Cormier. I think all three of them would have knocked him out in his prime in light heavyweight. I think Jon Jones showed how to beat DC, and all three could somewhat replicate the result. Do I think DC is going to take them down? Well, yeah, obviously he's going to take all of them down. I don't think that's a hot take, but um, he has some good top game and he's fine with his basic submissions. He has some Kimura locks and he has some rear naked chokes, but it's not something crazy. Uh, but I think all three of them can survive against him on the ground. And once they get back to the feet, they're gonna go back to the body. They're gonna stay long. They're gonna use their boxing. They're gonna use their kicks, and I think eventually they will knock him out. DC's primary game is just walking forward with both of his hands stretched out for hand fighting. He throws some kicks here and there. He shoots takedown after that. This, and then he tries to chain wrestle from there. So if we look at, let's just take Pereira for example, who is massive for the division, significantly more technical on the feet than most of DC's opponents, carries just as much as power as Rumble Johnson, and is not really that bad with his defensive grappling. I think everyone just shits on him because that's just normal, but to do nowadays. But I don't think Alex Pereira is that bad defensively. DC struggles when he is the one who gets pushed back. I think Gustaffson only lost because he didn't reliably or consistently push DC back, as he didn't really have the power for it. But when he did, he was landing shots very clean. DC was just reaching out with both of his hands, body was completely open. Overhand would have worked on DC, leg kicks would work on DC. But this is not Gustavsson without power. This is Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka and Magomed Ankalaev we are talking about. All of them are one punch KO power. Against Alex, I think the Magomed Ankalaev second fight would be a very good game plan. Just push him back immediately, attack the body, attack the legs, look for overhands, and if he rushes forward with just blindly, hit him with the left hook. Even if DC shoots, I think most of the fight will just end up on against the cage, where Alex Pereira will be looking for overhooks on one side, controlling wrist on the other side, and will be jamming knees into his liver straight for minutes. Maybe even to the head because DC is short. I really believe that DC is not going to get a submission against all three of them within the first 2 rounds, or maybe even the third round. And then, but by this time, the shots to the body is going to take effect, and all three of them would find the KO. in the third or fourth round. But yeah, just wanted to rant on it because this has been going on for so long now. I think people just have this nostalgia effect from the era and don't really consider fully what happened or what can happen. Anyhow, I would really love to know your opinions. If you think DC will destroy current light heavyweights, and I mean everyone, not just the lower ranked fighters, please explain how, and please don't just say, he's just gonna take him down and then just beat him up. I don't think that's gonna work. Elaborate it more in detail. But yeah, like and subscribe. I will see you in another video.